There are lots of things that we do where there can be ambiguity. For instance, when I get into my car, I've talked about this before. One of the first things I do, like, it's funny. So I say one of the first things I do, which implies that there are several first things that I do, right? Usually the first thing I do is I'm just going to do it, like, cause this is just how my brain works. Like I put my foot on the brake and I push the start button, and then I put my seatbelt on and I adjust my mirror. And then I start to back out of my garage. Maybe you, when you get in your car, maybe the first thing you do is put your seatbelt on, and then you push or start your car, and then you do those things. Maybe you put the radio on. Like, there's lots of things. Like, there can be a lot of ambiguity about what the right thing is to do in lots of things. Like when you're getting dressed in the morning, maybe you put your right shoe on before you put your left shoe on. Doesn't really matter. If you're putting salt and pepper on your food, like maybe you put pepper first, maybe you put salt first, maybe you put only salt, maybe you put only pepper, maybe you don't put any of those things. Like, it's completely ambiguous, right? There are lots of things in our lives where there can be ambiguity about what the right thing is to do first. But there is no ambiguity when it comes to the gospel being central to the life of the Christian. There's no ambiguity to the gospel being central to the message that we proclaim as Christians. This is Paul in Galatians 1, 11 and 12. Dear brothers and sisters, I want you to understand that the gospel message I preach is not based on mere human reasoning. I received my message from no human source, and no one taught me. Instead, I received it by direct revelation from Jesus Christ. So the gospel that Paul preaches is from Jesus. No filter. Now, I know what I'm thinking when I read this, right? Like, I heard the gospel from someone else. Most of us, I'll say most of us, 99.9% of us heard the gospel proclaimed from someone else. I don't think anyone got it directly from Jesus. If you did, we should talk, because I want to hear about that. What Paul is saying is true on a couple levels. Like, he received the message directly from Jesus. When we read in Acts 9 about his encounter with Christ when Paul was on the road to Damascus, like, he encountered Jesus. He heard the gospel from Jesus. Elsewhere in 1 Corinthians 11, when he talks about communion and the Lord's Supper, he said, the Lord told me himself. So Paul's message is directly from Jesus. Paul, he says, I didn't receive it from a human source. No one taught me. It's not based on mere human reason. So Paul didn't reason himself into the gospel, thinking about it. And I would say, carefully, cautiously, yet confidently, I would say that you didn't reason yourself into the faith either. God opened your eyes. This is what we talked about in 1 Corinthians chapter 2. God opened our eyes and our ears to be able to receive the message that was being proclaimed all around us. We had to have our eyes opened and our ears opened and our mind open and our hearts opened to the work of the gospel. We did not come about this by human reasoning. We came about it because Jesus revealed it to us. And yes, maybe we cultivated our hearts, maybe we cultivated our minds, maybe we put ourselves into position to where we could be receptive to the gospel. But the bottom line is the gospel that we have received comes directly directly, not in the same way that Paul got it directly from Jesus, but the gospel that we've received comes to us directly from God through other people, through Scripture. But make no mistake, it's God who opened our eyes. And what that means is when we then get to go out and we get to share the gospel, we want to understand that the gospel is the central message that we proclaim. It's the main thing that we proclaim. We don't proclaim other things. We only proclaim the gospel. God has revealed his gospel to us. God revealed his gospel to Paul. He reveals it to us. That is the main thing. As Sam said yesterday, that is our core objective, is for us to live out the gospel, the central thing, the most important thing. And any other things, there can be lots of ambiguity on. That's why we talk frequently here about essentials and convictions and preferences. The gospel is the essential of our faith. And a vast majority of every other thing is merely a conviction at best and a preference at worst. So my hope and my prayer for you is to think about the way that the gospel is central to your life. If it's not central to your life, what does that mean? How can I make the gospel central to my life? The core thing that drives every aspect of me. That's what I'm going to be praying about with you and for you today. We'll talk to you again soon.